Welcome to Eye on the Illini. This is Mike Cagley with Brad Sturdy, Kedric Prince. We are here in our continuing series of arguing about who knows more about Illinois basketball. Now we're talking about the top five power forwards in our memory. And Ked, you were telling me before we started here that this was the toughest one yet.
It was for me, and I'll tell you what, for me, it was tough because not back in the day, we didn't classify them as positionless players. We all have a group text like most of America. Brad put a list out there, and we talked about it a little bit. Some of these guys played 4 and 5, and then the position changed from year to year. So you could have been a 4 one year, then you were 5 the next, and that part was tough. This was not. This was when we asked about the point guard, shooting guard, small forward. I could put a list together. I had to do some homework with this one because I don't know. I'm really curious to see what everybody else has. Number one, but this was tough for me. It wasn't easy.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it was difficult. It was difficult to do. Just not. I think there was so many deserving guys, but then so many guys that maybe were on the bubble. You look at them like they could have made it or could close. So I think we could have put. There are 10 different guys. I think we could have listed that I wouldn't have argued with. So obviously there are a couple of top that make a lot of sense, a couple 3, but then the other ones, I don't know. How about this one? How about he had a really good year. Oh, but he was. Oh yeah. So it was tough.
Yep. Mike Shaw didn't make it. Just throw out a name for Slackster, one of our subscribers.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, let's jump into this because I was really excited to see what everybody was going to put as their top 5 power forwards. I think there'll be a couple of surprises here and again, but let's take a look at who we had at number 5. And Brad, you had Roger Powell there. Now, what had you put Roger at number 5?
I thought Roger was just he was a big part of a team that was 37-2 and ranked number 1 the entire season. Maybe it's just because of that dunk he had against Louisville on the putback. It was just fantastic. Looking at their list, I agree with a lot of it. You're intriguing me because Mike Davis is one of those guys. He's one of the all-time great rebounders at Illinois and had some fantastic seasons. I really think there are a couple guys sometimes, and I think there are some things like that. Maybe when you look at them, they're so close that it's hard to differentiate. And so is it 1 year, and sometimes it's fit. Roger Powell fit really well on that 2005 team, but Mike Davis and Mike Tisdale were playing together on those years. And I think they're both, even though their numbers are good, they weren't they weren't guys that fit well together. You would have been like, they needed one of them to be a little more physical there.
Yep. Yep. We got Marcus Griffin telling us to go, so that's good. You get the Illini baller. Now, we got Marcus at center, so he's going to have to wait and see next week if his name gets called. And then we'll have to, if he doesn't, we're going to have to stay far enough away that he can't squish us like the bugs we are. Now, I did something with Mike Davis, and I'll tell you what I did, and this will rub a lot of people the wrong way. But his career averages for points, rebounds, and assists were better than Roger Powell, and his best year statistics were better than Roger's best year. So I figured he was on the Marcus thinks he's 6th. Yeah, I had Mike ahead of Roger Powell because I thought he was on a much worse team and had very similar performance to Roger. Now, that logic may be totally opposite of what Brad uses, but that's the route with Mike Davis. I'm going to tip my hand here. I don't think I have Roger Powell in my top 5. Now, Ked, you surprised the heck out of me having Ken Norman at number 5.
Okay, before I answer it, why did that surprise you? I'm just curious.
Because I'm doing poor hosting here. The other 3 of us had him considerably higher than you did.
Which is why we do this. So here's the deal.
Exactly.
I said before the show, I tweeted it, it's hard. And I think one of the toughest things, it was tough about, Brad mentioned Roger Powell 5. Larry has that from Monday. And you have Mike Davis. And you can't argue because Mike Davis is one of the best rebounders in the school. And it's a position that I don't want to, gosh, it sounds really bad. It's never been like a dominant, guard or wing position at Illinois. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But to me, you can't go wrong with it. But I know Ken Norman was great. And I'm not going to sit here and, well, I'm going to, when we go over the rest of our list, to defend it. And for the last 3 podcasts we've done, I've been a numbers guy. Like the guys that I talked about, they put up great numbers. But I think Ken obviously should have made the list, and I don't know where everybody else has him, but I think I'm going to try to defend what else I have. But I can't argue either one of the people on this list here. I can't.
Yeah. And then Larry had Ephraim Winters, number 5. Ephraim is if you're going to ask me a favorite, I loved Ephraim Winters with the 2-hand lobs. He would throw those down like a volleyball spike where the ball would go through the rim and it would bounce like 20 feet high. He was just fantastic. Ephraim got a 5th place from Larry. So all in all, I think you could see the kind of the logic we're using on that. And I do think that there's a lot of, like I said, this was a tough one. There was no doubt about that. Yeah, so let's go to number 4.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Brad, you and I both had Ephraim, number 4. Throw out some Ephraims as to why you had him so high on the list.
I'll be honest with you. I thought that Ephraim was, when he was a sophomore, was just most dominant, one of the most dominant sophomores that we've seen at Illinois. His career numbers of 11.5 points, 6.6 rebounds, but his sophomore year, I thought he was just fantastic. 14.7 points, 6.76 rebounds after a 12.4. But he actually did worse at his junior senior year. Not because necessarily worse. He had a different role. His usage was lower, but he did rebound. He's still efficient. He's still really good. I just look at him as a guy who probably maybe doesn't get to the top, but I just thought he was so good. And maybe, again, this one, I talked about Roger's dunk. Maybe it was just because the reverse alley-oops and things like that. Yeah. Maybe that's why, just because that was fun. But he blocked shots. He rebounded. I think he was in top 10 in the Big Ten, or top 12 in the Big Ten in blocks per game all 4 years. He was top 10 in rebounds, or top 13 in rebounds in all 4 years in the Big Ten. So I guess he was also in the top 10 scoring that sophomore year. You really thought that maybe he was going to be even better than he ended up. Not that he wasn't a really good player, but I thought he just maybe didn't finish as well or didn't improve as much from his sophomore year on.
That was the same for me. I thought, to be honest, going into this, I thought I'd have him ranked higher. But when you see like you said, I did these guys on their best year / their whole career. And nobody peaked earlier than he did. In fact, his sophomore year, in many ways, was better than Mike Davis or Roger Powell's best year. And so you look at it and you're thinking to yourself, he was set up to have quite a career, and he didn't go up that next level. Part of it, I think guys figured out he couldn't dribble. I think that probably hurt him a little bit.
Yeah.
Because if he had just been a guy who could get 2 dribbles, put the ball on the deck for 2 dribbles, probably would have made a huge difference, because physically he was a beast, but just didn't have that ability to put the ball on the ground. Ked, you and Larry ended up with Mr. Powell at 4th, so maybe you talk a little bit about what put him there for you.
Roger, for me, was on number 4 because he played on a team that was 37-2. Okay, and here's the deal: we can talk about power forwards, and when he played in 2004 and 5, power forwards were 6'9", 6'10". Roger was lucky to be 6'6". He just was. We can put a couple inches on his shoes, and if he put on some, different pads, whatever, he was not that tall, but he was the most underrated player to me. We talked about that last week when we were going to go over the power forwards out of the group. He was never a great shooter coming in, but he kept defenses honest. He rebounded, and to be as small as he was to go against those guys and won. He outwilled other people. I'm not going to say this. He made the list because they were 37-2, but yeah, that had a little bit to do with it. But for the most part, he didn't put up a lot of great numbers. He was not a 20-point game scorer, and we all remember how well he played. But Roger played hard. He played really hard and was asked to play a position that it shouldn't have been him. Some coaches might have started put another guy in that spot, but they didn't do that with him. So I respect his game. I respect the size difference, and he used mismatches. And when he didn't back down, if he got a shot block, he went back. And he wasn't athletic, but he could jump, which is a difference. So it's not the same thing. I just thought for a guy that size to go against guys that big and to be successful and just one game, he had to make that list for me. I don't know. I'm curious to see if he's going to be on everybody else's list, to be honest with you.
Yeah, like I said, I did not have Roger on my list. It came down to Mike Davis and Roger Powell. I went with Mike Davis. I can probably see collectively a lot of people going, no, and I get it. But I thought Powell was a glue guy, and certainly what he's done as a coach, you have to really look at him as being an upstanding guy, a great team player, a guy you'd want out there on your team.
I think you can throw these guys different lists. I think it's interesting. So I'm going to say that Larry, you and I probably have the same top three in different orders. I'm going to go out on a limb. And then it's going to
be pretty close.
And I think so, Ked. I think Ked, you're the one who missed with Ken Norman. So just
maybe he made my list. He made the list, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're going to see. It's going to be interesting to see who puts who where, and that's all I got to say about that. But let's take a look at number 3. And here we have Brian Cook. Brad, talk a little bit about the decision-making process for Brian Cook.
I mean, Brian Cook was a Big Ten Player of the Year, right? I played Illinois, played on obviously Elite 8 team. He was just his senior year. He averaged 20 points, 7.6 rebounds, led that team as a veteran. After being more of a role guy, he obviously started and played minutes and averaged double figures the 2 years before, but then he became a star. His last year, he was a first team All Big Ten Rookie of the Year, All Big Ten Tournament once, Big Ten Player of the Year, All Big Ten Tournament first team, Big Ten Tournament MVP. I mean, it's impressive. Led the Big Ten in scoring in 2003. Also, at that same season, he was third in rebounding twice, 2 years in a row. He blocked shots. He was fourth in the Big Ten in blocked shots. Just a really good player. I thought he was he led the Big Ten in win shares twice. Oh, I'm sorry, he was second once and first once. Just a really good player. I thought he was dominant. I think he came in as McDonald's All-American. He lived up to the hype. He's a big guy who also could make free throws. Shot 87% one year, 82% the next year.
Yeah.
Not much to say that you can argue with about him. He's if you go win shares, he's career in Big Ten. He's 11th in Big Ten history in win shares. That's pretty impressive when you think about it. They won a lot of games, obviously, but he was on really good teams. But yeah, really impressive career for Brian Cook. But he was just fantastic. Scored 599 points his senior year.
And Brian Cook and one other guy, Ken Norman, are the only two that in the power forward position who had a 20 points per game season. And Norman came just a whisker away from a double. He was 20 and 9.8, and double is traditionally Kofi territory. So there's not a lot of that going on.
Can I ask a question? How is Brian Cook not? He was the Big Ten Player of the Year, Big Ten Tourney MVP, twice. He's All Big Ten, All Big Ten twice, first team. How was he not like an All-American?
I looked at that myself and wondered the same thing. And he ended up going to the Lakers in the first round.
Yeah, just really insane. I'm shocked he wasn't. But anyway, so yeah.
Ked, you had Ephraim.
He was also that stretch big guy too. He was one of those guys.
He was ahead of his time, wasn't he?
Yeah,
yes, he was. Can you imagine if he was playing today? I mean, he would be one.
He'd be so coveted with the way the game played.
You guys covered a lot of Ephraim winners. The only thing I want to say is that obviously I thought highly of him. You guys have talked about Brian Cook, and I'm just really curious to see how 1 and 2 end up. But Mike, you mentioned a couple times, and I agree with you. It's like it was showing our age. I just remember watching them get all those lob dunks, and it was just great. And they knew. And it's weird because I guess under the Brad Underwood era, you don't see a lot of that. It's weird. I think the one coach in the Big Ten that does that still is Tom Izzo. I missed that part of it. Ephraim was tough, big, strong guy, just thick, And I remember watching him play when I was younger, and just how dominant he was. And I just know that his position, like you said, you look at him, you guys had him at 4 and 5, and obviously he should have made the list. But he's just a guy that I think was, I don't say he was playing prior to his time, but just a really good player over the years. And it's nice to see some of these people, the newer fan generation, they're probably thinking, who in the hell is Ephraim Winters? And who in the hell is Mike Davis? Because Mike Davis is probably the one guy that I don't want to say I regret leaving off, but that guy, statistically, he rebounded his butt off. And in this position, like I said to you, if you look at in today's basketball, Cookie will probably be the only guy on this list that will be a dominating guy in today's basketball. Because the rest of these guys, these were too small, just your typical old school power forwards.
Yeah. And I think we're going to need to break into this ranking because it looks like we have a commitment, and here we are doing it live. Heard rumblings, but there was commitment of Camden Lopati. Is that how you pronounce the last name?
Yes. Awesome.
Yep. And he is a 4-star class of 2027. I'll tell you what, this is pretty big because you're seeing another 4-star commit. So Brett Bielema is no longer feasting on 2 and 3 stars, but he's now looking at 4 stars. And you're talking about a guy that they beat programs like he had offers from Oregon, Washington, and I'm assuming, that out there in Utah, that he probably had a offer from Utah as well. This is a pretty big win. Ked, any initial thoughts on this now that we can announce that and talk about this for a few minutes, and then we'll go back to the power forward list?
Well, I'm excited you asked me. I'm kind of, Mike, please ask me what I think. So here's what I really think. Think about, both of you, think about what it was like 6-7 years ago. Illinois had one quarterback, and the other quarterback on the roster was probably in 3rd grade. The talent wasn't there, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Look at the talent that's there right now. You got Trey Petty, who's a star. You got guys that are the depth. I've never, ever, and I'm asking the fans, the YouTube, when have you seen that kind of depth at that position in Illinois? And to recruit guys just over and over. So to me, when I look at the Illinois football program, and this is why I'm excited, I think they've really turned the corner because they were never able to do that. It was always just one guy that they had, never had a good quality backup. Now they're able to get good backups. They're able to get freshmen on campus and keep them and develop them. That hasn't happened. I don't know when the last time it has. Like I said to you, you look at the 25s and 26s, there's great talent coming in all these classes. And to me, this shows a sign where you really turn the corner, like I said to you, and to be different than everybody else. You're not just that same team that you used to be. They got a quarterback in the 2025 class, Michael Clayton, another 4-star recruit. And so they're building one each single year. Hasn't happened. Kudos to Brett Bielema and his thing he has going. And to out-recruit them. Mike, you and I are big guys when it comes to who else is recruiting them, who else is going after them. That tells you Oregon is one of the best programs in the country. I still think so. They are. But you guys say that about Illinois now. You really do. So I'm excited, happy for them. But now that you're adding that kind of depth at the quarterback position, to me, tells me that you're right because that hasn't happened in the past, guys.
Yeah, this is another. The last 4 classes they've had the top 50 quarterback, which is what the goal is: 4-star top 50 quarterback. That's great. This is a top 20 quarterback. This is a different animal. This is 6'3". This is a guy who has the build of a linebacker, but he can run, he can throw. He's got tremendous arm talent, and he's a 2027. You know what? The coolest thing about this kid is he already played his freshman year wide receiver. So his sophomore year became the starting quarterback. He is the guy that I think, obviously they targeted him and they wanted him. I was told, and I'm not sure, I was told this, I thought he said that he liked the animal medicine or animal science department, vet med or something like that at Illinois, which my brother went to. Yeah, evidently it's okay, but
the legend went to
something like that. But yeah, so you kind of look at this and you're like, this is a big time get early. And this is obviously you're going to recruit him because you're going to have everybody come after him because you're going to continue to get better. But at the same time, this is awesome. This is what you want. This is the kind of thing you want to have. And I agree with Bill Moe. He's the quarterback I wanted to land out of the 2027 guys. Okay. And back to hoops we go.
Yeah, I just think one note, Matt just texted over Art Sikowski, his first big recruiting win as an assistant coach. And I got to think that Art Sikowski's got an awful lot of credibility with players. When you take a look at his career, he played it. Well, in those days, he played on both edges of the Big Ten. Now he hasn't even made it halfway across the conference. But Sikowski back there, I think that's a huge thing. Ked, you can talk a little bit about what that means to have former players going in and recruiting.
Not just former players, but to have guys on the staff that are bought in, guys that have played at the Big Ten level. And let's not take this for granted. This is a 2027 kid, not a 26, because they're working on that class. And I can tell you right now, as good as a player as he is, there's going to be other schools that's going to come in and try to poach him, and I get all that. But to answer your question, having art on campus and to be able to go out to sell the program, Brett Bielema hires good coaches. And I will tell you this, and I will go on record, I'm really careful about choosing my words, and because I know the fans will come back and they'll let you know if you make a mistake. If they lost any coach on that staff, I'm that confident that Brett Bielema is going to find the right person to fit that job. It may not be somebody that we like. It may not be somebody coming from Ohio State or Michigan. Brett is not going to put anybody on his staff in a position that's not going to be good enough to, and believe in his philosophy and what it takes to win. I know, I can only imagine what these other schools are thinking. What the hell, where did Illinois come from? And this is what I like when I look online, look on social media, you guys, to see all the feedback and what people are saying about Illinois football, because it's arrived. It's here.
Yeah, I think I said that the other night when I hear the SEC fans talk about how their teams are better than Big Ten teams and they should have got more teams in the playoffs. Illini Guys 316 said Illinois kicked South Carolina's ass. And so I think Illinois football is back. And I think you're going to see victories like this. And you got to think Brett Bielema's chuckling because we've seen what he can do with 2- and 3-star recruits. What's he going to do with a roster full of 3, 4, and occasional 5-stars?
Win, baby. Win and win big and continue to beat the Michigans of the world, Ohio State, Oregons, and give them a run for their money. The other day, I'm not going to ramble here because it's summertime. Not a lot of college sports going on. I went to watch the Oregon game again because I heard Bielema mention at the press conference his thought about Oregon. Illinois was just outmanned that game. This was a bad game, but Mike, you and I talked about it multiple times. The speed difference was one of the biggest differences in the game. They're closing that gap. I think personally, and Brad, you've done this as long as I have. When you talk to the difference between 4- and 5-star kids, for me, a lot of them, sometimes it comes down to athleticism and speed. And that's the difference, I think, with a lot of these kids.
Yeah, I agree. I think they've got athleticism, arm talent, bigger, stronger. It's pretty good.
Yeah, 6'3", 227 or 220 at that age. And a lot of teams you'd be playing lineman, but you're good enough to play wide receiver and quarterback. That gives you an idea of what Illinois is starting to do. And
it's funny how, and it's a different thing, but Mark Beatty's on here. He mentions proud of Hank contributing to Bielema's build and saw it coming. It's pretty cool because Hank Beatty, remember, he was like all-state wide receiver and then became all-state quarterback after he was.
We're proud of Hank too. Come on, he's a guy. He's a guy we'd love to get on. We'd love to get on the show because when you get kids, first off, you want talented kids playing, but if you can get some kids from Central Illinois to feed the machine, and that's so cool.
I think he's set for a big year. How about the finish he had? Like we talked about this on the radio show and the podcast before. He's got a chance to have a big year, and he had some of those catches he made at the end of last year, and the punt returns were just huge. All right, let's get back to this power forward list, guys.
All right. Yeah, let's get back to this. Brad has an early bedtime. We do not want to keep him up. He gets very grumpy. So let's look at the number 2, and this is where you're going to see a little bit of divergence here. Kenny Battle makes the list for myself and Larry at number 2. We see Ked shake his head a little bit. Brad, you had Ken Norman in second place. Let's talk a little bit about that, and then I'll talk for Larry. Larry and I, and of course, Ked's got Brian Cook, who – hey, Brian Cook's one of only 2 of these guys who had the 20 points a game. So I'm not gonna begrudge Brian that high of a ranking either.
Okay, Ken Norman, 2-time first team All Big Ten, second team consensus All American, led the Big Ten in rebounding, and was fourth once. He fifth in scoring at 20.7 points per game in Big Ten play. Not to be outdone, he also was second in block shots. He was 17th in steals. He shot 58% from the field or something like that. He got to the line. He just just amazing. His senior year, he was one of the most dominant players in the country, averaging 20.7 points and 9.8 rebounds per game. 20 and 10 guys not named Kofi are not very common, and it's pretty impressive what he did. 58% from the floor, and this is an era when he didn't shoot as many threes, and it wasn't the same thing. But he got to the line, shot 73% from the line as a senior, even averaged 2.2 assists, which is pretty good. So yeah, Ken Norman. Not much less to say. Had a great NBA career too. We played more small forward, obviously at 6'8", but he became just a consensus All-American and two-time All-Big Ten guy. It was pretty impressive.
Ted, you didn't get a lot of chance to talk about Brian Cook, so let's hear your thoughts on Mr. Cook.
The Cookie Monster, to me, I'll start off with this. I remember going up to, I think it was Lincoln Heights. No, it wasn't. It was Brad. Do you remember the Morse Shootout that used to be this tournament up in the Chicago area?
Yeah.
I went up there to go watch him play, and I was thinking, okay, is he going to disappoint me? And he didn't. Your words, when you explained Brian Cook, one of the first things you said was he was a McDonald's All-American, and he didn't disappoint. He was a really good, dominant basketball player for the University of Illinois. And to be that tall, could shoot like a guard, and his shot was so quick. His release was really quick. And you know what? You guys always know that I'm going to talk about the numbers, and what he's done. He's sixth in the school in history in school scoring. He scored over 1,700 points in his college career at the University of Illinois. To me, just his numbers and the way he could put the ball in the basket. And there were times that I know the knock on him was he avoided the post. He was not your typical like Marcus Griffin, kind of low post guy. That wasn't who he was. Old school guys remember Shelly Clark. But Cookie was effective. He could shoot it. And you're right. One of the things I like about all kids, he could shoot free throws. Brad mentioned his statistics earlier. But I think, and he was drafted, played in the NBA. And it's sad because people don't talk about him. You could talk about Ken Norman, D. Brown, all these guys, but Cookie never comes up. And I don't understand. It baffles me because how good of a player. And he could have went to a lot of schools, guys. A lot of programs recruited him, and he stayed home, and he just battled through it. And for some reason, to me, people just overlook him. And I try my hardest not to do that with some of these kids, especially as highly touted as he was coming out of high school and watching him perform. And from my understanding, talking to a lot of the guys, the former players, he was a hell of a teammate as well.
Yeah, there's nothing you can say bad. And I took Kenny Battle. Battle, I thought, was amazing player. He was the heart of the 89 team. And I gave Norman the advantage just because he was a little bit better scorer in the Big Ten or when he was here at Illinois than Battle was. And that senior year that Ken Norman has largely been forgotten by Illini fans, but you're talking second team All-American and just a hair's breadth away from a double with 20.7 and 9.8 rebounds a game. That's not very many rebounds, and he'd be a 2010 guy. And there aren't very many Illini players over the decades who've been a double guy, especially when you make it a 20 and 20 and 10. So that's the only reason, even though I think both guys I was a tremendous fan of. And I guess I'll always feel a little bit bad for Norman because of that stupid game against Austin Peay. But let's not talk about that. That one gets me verklempt. So let's take a look then. The number one position, we had a split, at least on the number one rankings. Kenny Battle was Brad and Ked, and then Ken Norman was Larry and I. Brad, make a case here for Mr. Battle at number one.
31-5, Final Four. I don't know. And he was regardless of whether Nick Anderson was probably the best player on that team. Ken O'Gill became an NBA star. But Kenny Battle was the guy on that team who you remember who had brought the energy every single time they played. And I think that part of the thing that makes Kenny Battle so special is the other end of the floor. he was efficient. He's 10th in the Big Ten in effective field goal percentage for his career, but he also averaged 2.5 steals per game his last year and 2.2 steals per game the year before. This was a guy who was consistently great on the defensive end. He was a leader. He led with energy. He was vocal as well. NCAA tournament all region, etc., etc., etc. Just a fantastic player, and he played over 30 minutes per game, and he was impressive. He rebounded. He scored 16.6 points a game his senior year. So just a really good player. If you put Ken Norman ahead of him, I'm not going to argue with you, because I think Ken Norman probably was and I would say Ken Norman's probably a better pure player than Kenny Battle. But what Kenny Battle did was different. What he did as far as leadership role and energy, the things that he brought, is why I have him as they could be 1 and 1A, and I wouldn't complain. I think those are the two best guys for me.
Kedric?
Well, I'm excited about this one. I know you guys laugh at me, probably send texts behind my back how much I love Terrence Shannon Jr., but I'm going to tell you, this guy right here, Kenny Battle, until I met Terrence Shannon Jr., until I met him, I watched him, I covered him as a player, Kenny Battle was by far my favorite player to ever put on the uniform. I know we don't have a lot of time in this podcast. We're already at about 35, 40 minutes, but I'm going to tell you, the people who are listening to this podcast, if you get some time and you're bored, get on YouTube. There's some videos out there of Kenny Battle, and I'm telling you, he was electric. When Dickie Vitale named the Illini the Flying Illini, it was mostly because of him and Kendall Gill and then Nick Anderson. Kenny Battle punished people. And when I tell you to watch the videos, you watch how hard he played. There was one video out there, and there was a ton of players, Ken Norman, Doug Onberger. They talked about he had one gear. Kenny played hard from the time practice was going until it was over. I think Doug Onberger mentioned, I don't remember, and again, if you YouTube it was a funny story. He talked about how everything Kenny did, he gave it his all. And they remember going on the dance floor. They all went out one night. Kenny danced for 4 or 5 straight hours, never came off the floor. He was drinking the water and tea and pop, whatever it was, and he kept right on dancing. He just played hard. And watching him play, to me, over the years, there's been so many people that have explained to me, he is what it's like to be a Fighting Illini. That kid never, ever took a day off. We're really good friends to this day. I'm not even going to hide it. We'll be talking an awful lot, and he was telling me how he had knee surgery and hip surgery. And I'm still thinking this is 1989. I'm like, no, man, you can't have knee surgery. You can jump out of the gym. You can't battle. But it's just unique. If you watch that team play, that's why people are arguing, you guys, about which team was better, the 89 or 05, or Griff talks about his club, which I can't argue with that, the 02 team, I believe. But Kenny Battle was electric. And I'm telling you, fans, this kid played hard. And he was going like Roger Powell. Kenny Battle was 6'6". He was jumping over guys. He was telling me a story about this guy named from Florida, Dave Schminskis or something like that. I know I butchered the guy's last name.
Dwayne Schminskis.
Yes. Kenny Battle made him look like he was 2 foot tall. He tried to dunk on anybody. And here's the deal. He pressed all by himself. They could be up by 20. He was a one-man press all the time. So not only the fact that he deserves to be in that spot, to me, when you talk about fighting Illini basketball players, what it means to be an Illini fighting, it's him, bar none. I don't buy uniforms. I don't buy shirts. But when I was younger, that was the only shirt that I ever bought because that kid played that hard.
Yeah, that's cool. So, yeah, we had a split.
It was named the Kenny Battle Award.
Yes, there you go.
Yep. We had a split at the top, but because Ken Norman did so poorly in the eyes of Kedric Prince, we'll look at our top 5 of all time.
And we can blame Ked. That's good.
Yeah, exactly. So if Ken Norman's a heat-seeking missile to find Ked, we'll just go, But Kenny's number 1 with a Ken. What's the odds of 2 Kens going for the number 1 position? But Battle number 1, Norman number 2, Brian Cook, Ephraim Winters, Roger Powell. That's a pretty impressive.
Who had that
there.
Who had that list? Whose list was that? Just going back.
I do not know. Who do we think?
Brad's asking, so it's probably his list.
I know.
Yeah, some of us are just better than others. It is what it is.
But yeah, that you'll see of the cover of the podcast, you'll see or on when we do the post-production one on YouTube, you'll see a picture by Mark Jones, the guy who's probably the most colorful character in Illinois sports in the last 40 years. But he let me use a fantastic picture of Kenny flushing one. It's just awesome. You'll see that on the cover. It's pretty cool. But so yeah, that's where the top 5 power forwards go. It's a dang good list. A lot of fantastic players there. We had a hard time with that. And next up, we do the center position, where again, there's some tough players there, and we'll see who ranks where. Right now, we're going to take a little break before returning, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Fantastic Four movie that came out this weekend.
This is the run my own business dream. This is the college is paid for dream. This is the retire early dream. This is Busey, where your dreams and possibilities become moments through trusted guidance and expertise, through lifelong relationships. Because we're here to help you achieve the life you've always envisioned.
There's our friend from Busey Bank. Thank you, Busey Bank. Any final thoughts on the power forwards before we move on to talking about the latest Marvel movie?
Well, I'm sorry to hurt everybody's feelings and be the outcast and the one loser to be different, but I justified my picks, man.
I sent Ken Norman your number. That's all good.
Yeah, I want to get Ken on to talk
address. So
I want to get Ken on to talk about this and
get in touch with you there.
Because
I'm sitting here thinking, and the reason I'm laughing, you guys won't do it, but someone is probably going to do
it. One of the Illini players who has Ken's number is going to give it to Ken. You might want to send Ken my way because I can talk to him how I had him ranked number 1.
That's
and
great.
At least it'll be safe. So the next thing we're going to talk about here, of course, people have asked me, they go, why do you guys do superhero movies and stuff like that? And I'll tell you why I do it. All my entertainment is escapist. It's all sports. It's comic books, science fiction, fantasy, Lord of the Rings. I don't watch very much stuff that reminds you of what's on the news nowadays. So if there's a touching, heartwarming story where people have emotions about something that's in the headlines today, odds are I'm not going to watch it because I can turn on the news or I can read, about it. And I'd rather have my entertainment be escapist that has nothing to do with real life. Now, Brad, I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I just sat back one time and all my entertainment is stuff that's totally unrealistic other than being a huge history buff.
I think comedy is good. You know what I mean?
They're not making those anymore, it seems like, in the movie theaters.
They're not on theaters. They're all on. I've been watching maybe Stick. It's fun little comedy with Owen Wilson on Apple. Stuff like that. Some of that stuff's, I like the intriguing stuff. But, yeah, sometimes the real life stuff, we got enough real life.
In real life.
Yep. Yeah, so we got enough drama in real life, so I'd rather have I agree with you. I like the release of these science fiction movies and the superhero movies. Not a big horror film guy, though. So I don't know.
I'm not either because I have too big of an imagination. Going, that could happen. And then I'm always the idiot in the middle of the night. Like, I wake up at the drop of a pin. And I'm the person who people go, don't go down in the basement. I'm like, I might as well go see what's down there. I'm the first guy.
When I was a child, I was like that too, Mike. But then I got older.
First guy dead in any movie.
Then I turned 7. But no, I think that sometimes, it is true. But I don't get very fearful. Occasionally I get that weird thing that happens, but I'm not I just don't really enjoy them. I almost watch them more I'd watch Friday the 13th just for the comedy of how stupid it is.
Oh yeah, like that's like Freddy Krueger movies.
Yeah, they're just so dumb that it's almost like comedy to me. It's fun in that regard, but not really my thing. But yeah, so science fiction is the way to go. Superhero movies are fun because we still want to be. Let's be honest, we're 50 years old. And we still want to be superheroes.
Yeah.
I mean, you still. I
well,
still
look, hey,
fly.
here's the funny thing is my mom gave me this envelope, and apparently, when I was in like third grade, or second grade, you had to write down what you wanted to be in life, and then they gave it to parents. They're supposed to give it to us later in life. So the three things that I wanted to be in like first or second grade is I wanted to be the wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys. So I wanted to be the next Drew Pearson. That didn't happen. My second choice was president of the United States, and that hasn't happened. And my first choice was Batman. So I'm 0 for 3. I haven't hit any of my professional goals that I set at an early age.
Well, it happens.
I'll tell you what, for me, I remember one of the reasons I became such a fan, I have to be honest, I think when Avengers first came out, like with Tony Stark and the whole series, I got so excited because it reminded me as a kid. Now, I'm going to tell people, I know they're probably not going to believe this. When I was in high school, I weighed 150 pounds, 145 pounds. I would get up every Saturday morning, get the biggest bowl of Frosted Flakes, drink a gallon of milk, and just watch superheroes. So when I saw these new Avengers guys on TV, it got me excited. And I started shoving it down my kids' throat. But they liked it. They obviously weren't doing that. And here's my one war story. My birthday was 2 weeks ago, and my sister came in from Kentucky, and my mom asked, she said, what's one of the stupidest things you ever done as far as being a superhero? I looked at my sister because I didn't want to tell my mom. But I remember I was probably 7 or 8 years old. I took a clothes hanger, those old school clothes hangers, and wrapped some string around it, and I thought I was Spider-Man. I was trying to hang from my mom and dad's pipes because I wanted to be Spider-Man. To me, I've always liked it. I've always liked, and I was more of a Marvel's guy. Then DC grew on me a little bit, but I guess if you like it, you don't. But I don't miss any of them. I'm attached to them, and every time I watched the Green Hornet last week, who's an older one, just because it's just great to me. And I know it's not real, but it's just entertaining. Some people like it, some people don't.
What do you mean it's not real? What are you trying to say?
Yeah, I'm sorry, because
we had a buddy of ours who now is a VP at Aldi. He was like the first of us to get a vice president job. And when we were in high school, he comes in, was a freshman in high school. He comes in talking to us about how he thought that Macho Man might be dead because he got beat up with a lead pipe by Pez Whatley. And we're all like, dude, you realize that's not real. And he's like, no, I saw it. I watched it on TV. And it's, dude, they're hitting, that pipe goes across their back and it hits the floor. So it doesn't really hurt them. It hits the ring. No. So it was like literally, here was a freshman in high school. And I felt like I would feel later on when I had to break to my kids that the Easter Bunny wasn't real.
What are you saying? What are you saying there, Mike?
I know, it was crazy.
Don't
exactly. Brad has been believing and finally gets his belief in the Easter Bunny shattered. So let's talk a little bit about this movie, because I saw the Fantastic Four on Thursday night and then watched it again last night so that I had a half a clue what happened. And okay, so here's my thoughts here. There'll be a few spoilers along the way, but from a casting standpoint, I thought Ian Gruffold looked like Mr. Fantastic from the 2005 and 2007 movies. Even though those movies weren't particularly good, I thought they nailed 3 out of the 4 Fantastic Four people in terms of Chris Evans. There'll probably never be a Human Torch as good as Chris Evans. Michael Chiklis, of course, The Shield, which is one of my top 5 TV shows of all time. If you have not binge watched The Shield, do it now. You can hit me at Mike Cagley on Twitter and tell me how great I was for giving you that suggestion, because it's a fantastic show. And then Ian Gruffold, I thought they got 3 of the 4 of the Fantastic Four right. And while Jessica Alba has been on my laminated list for years, she was not believable as a super intelligent scientist woman. So I might as well scratch her off my.
Hey, she looks intelligent to me.
Yeah, she's look, and she runs multiple businesses, and she's making a ton of money. So clearly, she's a very intelligent person. But I just didn't think she was a good fit for that. And I thought this time, I thought the guy who played the Thing was fine. Eben Moss Bachrach, thought he was fine. Had a good voice for it. I thought they did a good job of looking like the Thing from comic books because he's not like the Hulk. He's not 7 feet tall. He's right on the 6 foot thing. So they didn't make him super tall, but he was super thick. And I didn't think much of Vanessa Kirby, but I thought she was fantastic. I thought she was the best of them. But Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards is fine. But I just thought, why do you pick a guy with all the charisma in the world and then have him play a guy who's nerdy and doesn't really deal well with people? I thought that was a weird choice. Not that Pedro Pascal can't do it, but it was just surprising to me. And then I thought Joseph Quinn is the Human Torch. I think he was one of the emperors in Gladiator 2, but he just didn't look like the Human Torch. And then they didn't really write the Human Torch like the Human Torch. So I felt like he was really short when you compared him to like Chris Evans. So I don't know because Brad, you don't have to see the movie to think of the casting, but what do you guys think about the 4 individuals selected?
I didn't like it from the get-go. I love Pedro Pascal. I think he's fantastic. He should be like Zorro or something, though. Somebody with charisma and character.
Exactly.
He's
That's
not. You need a nerdy scientist, I think. And I'm not saying he can't play a nerdy scientist, like you said, but he just didn't fit for me. But that's where we typecast people, whatever. I don't know. But at the same time, I think that it sets up. Hopefully, it sets up for the future because we all know that what we're hoping for is what happens in the next one when we see the star of all the Marvels return. I guess so. But yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen the movie. I'm hoping.
Yeah, so you're here is
tomorrow.
Yeah,
plan is tomorrow because they have half price Tuesdays.
Yes, well, and tomorrow's Monday, but okay.
Okay, maybe Tuesday we'll go. I don't know what day it is. Hey, listen, I don't have any idea. I go to these softball tournaments. I have no idea what day it is. Like you say, we're gonna have this podcast on Monday night or Sunday night. I'm like, I don't even know what day that is. When is that? Give me a date. I don't know what day it is. It's just a blur.
Ken, what'd you think of the casting?
Going into it, I just said how excited I was to see all the Marvels and DC movies. This one, it didn't sit with me. I'm telling you, the only reason I went to go see it was because I wanted to do my homework, and I've seen all the other ones, and I know they have all the teasers afterwards. I didn't like the cast to begin with. Not that I don't like them, I guess, their roles. I will say Vanessa and Pedro grew on me. That was it for me, at least. For me. I think Pedro is an underrated actor. Vanessa did a really good job. I think I liked her. Again, the plot to me was the best part. I didn't like the movie. If I had to rank every Marvel's movie or DC movies and 1 through 10, I know there's more. This would make number 10 for me. And again, the plot is the only thing that saved it. I like that part of it. There wasn't a lot of action. I didn't get to see Pedro stretch out. You saw Joseph or the Human Torch more than anything, but Sue Storm didn't really disappear a lot. I think it was lacking that. For me, it was not one of my favorites. I'll always go back and watch them again, or this one I won't. I'm going to tell you, I just won't. It was not good enough. I said ranking, but if I just had a scale 1 through 5 and 5 being the highest, which is probably a 1.5 or 2 for me. Wasn't a fan.
Yeah. Now, I actually liked it better the second time. I had a couple issues, though, and this comes from the comic book geek in me. Reed Richards has certainly been awkward socially, but he always had confidence in his ability to think. And I thought that they overplayed the whole, I don't have a solution because my best friend looks like a thing and I haven't been able to cure him. I don't know if it made him lose all of his confidence, but I didn't like that part of it. But more importantly is Mr. Fantastic is the smartest guy in the world. He's smarter than Tony Stark is. And so they did not show him do anything. Standing at the chalkboard and looking confused does not make you the smartest guy in the world. And so I thought they could have given
That's
him.
a role I can play, Mike.
That's me too. I could.
I'm
could.
looking confused.
Yeah, exactly. And that was my part. Is it's if you're gonna, instead of mentioning like 6 times in the movie that he's the smartest guy in the world, have him do something. So besides teleport an egg that then turns into the planet. But look, that was another one. And then the one guy who like did something at genius level was Johnny Storm, who figured out by 3 words, he figured out an alien language. So that would be something I would expect Reed Richards to do, not Johnny Storm. And this Johnny Storm was different because he was much more thoughtful. Instead of, usually he was the counterfoil to Ben and Reed, and he's the immature skirt chasing person who they got to kind of keep under control. And so I thought that was interesting. That I don't really blame the actor for that. It's not his fault. Just like Pedro, I just thought the writers missed on those 2 characters. And then with Galactus, you don't have to have Galactus talk to people. He's on the level of, you've never had an ant. You've never stopped as you walk down a sidewalk to have a conversation with an ant. And I don't think that Galactus would ever have a conversation with a human being. And in the past, they used creatures like the Watcher to be like the intermediary. And I think they missed on Galactus by giving him human motivations. So when they gave him human motivations on why he no longer wanted to eat planets, I'm not saying they're not legitimate. I'm just saying that a creature like him that's been around since before the dawn of time probably doesn't think about things the way we do, but who knows? The plot was really interesting. They basically, I thought they did the best 10-minute montage. Do not come late to this movie, because the first 10 minutes they go through a montage of like origin and the first couple of 3 years of the Fantastic Four existence. So we don't have to watch an origin story that we all know about. And I thought that was great use of time. And basically they talk about their 4th anniversary as the Fantastic Four. Silver Surfer says, I herald the end. I herald Galactus. And then they go chase after Galactus. Galactus comes back to Earth. There's your story. Easy story. I liked that. And then the other thing I had an issue with is, if you're going to fight Galactus, here's a guy who eats planets. Okay. So think of Earth as a pizza buffet. And so Galactus eats a pizza buffet. To us would be what Earth is to Galactus. And I don't think that some infinitesimal creature on the pizza is going to take us down. I guess maybe some E. coli could. But nonetheless, you've got this guy who's so powerful he eats planets. And to me, they showed him feeding on a planet right before the Fantastic Four found him. They should have taken a page from Fantastic Four 243 and had Galactus come to Earth when he was starving and he isn't as powerful as normal, which would then lend to a chance for the Fantastic Four to actually beat him, as opposed to a fully fed Galactus who, if you remember the Celestials from the Eternals, Galactus can handle as many as 3 or 4 of those guys at once when he's well fed. So I just don't think he'd have much problem with a group unless he would have come really hungry. Ted, did you have a problem with that, or you're just good with the whole thing?
I'm good with the whole thing, like I said to you, Mike. I was really curious to know when you told me you were going to say to what you thought. I want to add this other piece, and this is, you and I talked about it before air. You liked it, I didn't. I didn't like the old school look. I think the old school look, I wasn't a fan of that, because I don't want to go back to live the 80s or 70s and 80s, whenever the heck it was. I like today's modern technology. I wasn't a fan of that personally, but again, that was another, I don't want to just trash on the film, but that was another negative thing for me. And Galactus was probably he wasn't even a good villain. I'm sorry. I struggle with this, and being nice, but the whole scene to me. And then I was really weird. I know they're trying to sell it. You look on social media, oh, this is the best Marvel film of the summer. No, it's not. There's 2 other films, The Sinners and Superman, that are just knocking this out of the park for me. This wouldn't even be in the top 5 of the summer for me.
Now, for those people who are Marvel fans, basically you've got Earth 616 is where the Marvel folks are on in the movies. And so basically we haven't really, we didn't, this was a different Earth. So the multiverse is back in play a little bit. And I think they wanted to make it, it looked like to me, if the Jetsons wasn't a cartoon, that's what it looked like to me. And so a little bit reminiscent. I liked the colors and I liked the change because it told me we weren't on the regular Marvel Earth. So I thought that was pretty cool. But again, I just think they were trying to signal us that they weren't there. The ending was different because I expected Galactus to win. So that didn't happen, which I thought for sure. And then we also found out, this is spoiler alert time, so go ahead.
I'm going to mute you.
30 seconds. But we found out that at this point is that I thought that rocket ship at the end of the last movie was going to be the guys from the Fantastic Four, but they're not there yet. So that makes me wonder because the next Marvel movie, I believe, is going to be Avengers in Doomsday. And they've somehow got to get the Fantastic Four caught up to where the Thunderbolts are. So that means that, could that mean some of Avengers Doomsday takes place on the Marvel Earth, a 682 or whatever, 86 or whatever the number was? It makes it a little interesting. The only other thing, two more things I'll bring up and then let you guys bounce off of his. So the Silver Surfer in comic books is Norrin Rad. He sacrificed himself to go find planets because Galactus just has to eat planets. And he said, fine, you don't have to eat mine if I can go find one for you. And so they changed it to his girlfriend, Shala Ball. I just didn't know why they did that, but it seemed like maybe at the end, the combination that defeated or at least pushed Galactus away was two moms who were trying to essentially motivated to defend their kids, and their superpowers were a key component of that. But I'm not certain what they were going with, but that was a little bit different. And I guess ultimately I thought that the extra scene was a total waste of time because we already know who the bad guy is because a year ago, they introduced Robert Downey Jr. as basically Dr. Doom. So to have a silhouetted probably Dr. Doom in the extra scene, that doesn't tell me anything because we already knew Dr. Doom's coming. And then Kang the Conqueror, basically, they haven't really wrapped him up other than he lost against Ant-Man, which is the stupidest thing in the world. And I think they're looking at him. Kang is a great villain if you do him the right way, but having him beat by a bunch of ants from a compressed timeline is about the dumbest thing they could have done. I just think they need to get a few comic book nerds like myself into some of these plot things. Hey, Kevin Feige, I'm volunteering. Mike@IlliniGuys.com. Send me an email. I'll just sit on a meeting like once a month or something. But some of these things are avoidable mistakes. Now let's hit a couple other questions. And by the way, I thought the movie was a solid movie. I'd put it roughly equivalent to Superman. I thought both movies were good movies, and both of them had some flaws that kept me from putting them up in that higher class, like the Avengers Endgame or something like that. But I was entertained.
You think this movie was on the level of the Superman?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Now I'm excited to see it because I usually agree with you, but maybe not this time.
The Superman movie.
I'm looking forward to this one as much as I was.
Yeah,
Superman.
no, I wasn't either. I'll tell you. And again, I would probably give it roughly the same grade, 7.5 out of 10. The biggest issue with both these movies is that they just they've got to get more of the comic stories and stop trying to go, you know what? I want $3 million to write this movie, so I can't use what some comic book writer did. Because some of the stuff they did, like when basically they took Ultraman was a mix between Ultraman and it wasn't really Ultraman. He was Bizarro with an Ultraman uniform. And having Lex Luthor clone some guy in 3 years versus, I don't know. There's just better ways to do a villain for Superman. And I really thought that Lex Luthor would never allow his fingerprints to be so he could get caught. I just didn't. I thought that he's too much. He's too smart of a guy to do that. And then to let some girl take selfies and reveal all of his plans. I'm like, okay, I thought it was a perfect Luthor until the very end. And then I'm like, okay, didn't like that. And
So
this
this
one,
is, to me, Mike, I'll give you my.
yep.
You remember the Borg?
Yeah.
The Borg didn't concern themselves with people who they didn't see as a threat.
I agree.
And I think that was Lex Luthor. He did not see that girl as a threat.
I agree.
And that's why she was able to.
And that was his hubris that they were trying to outline. His hubris.
Exactly. And so that's where I think it's not necessarily a lack of intelligence, but that I do agree with Anton. I thought Superman looked a little bit weak compared to the other Supermans, but I also, and here's why I like it. Superman's just invincible. He really, they made him appear like, at least it was like competitive. You know what I'm saying? It's so many times these movies, it's like when you think about the Justice League thing with Henry, I loved Henry Cavill as Superman. I thought he was in Man of Steel. He was great. But they made him look he was so invincible there when he came out, when he was brought back to life there. It was almost a travesty. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he's too strong. It's a joke.
Yeah, they basically pulled a page from the WWE because you look at guys who were champions for the longest. Hulk Hogan got the hell beat out of him more than any guy did because he lost the first 20 minutes of every match. And then when everybody's, oh my God, what's going to happen? And then he hulked up and wins. And I think that's the key that a lot of these superhero guys haven't figured out, that if you could do a Superman movie, but if you don't think he can be hurt, it takes a whole thing out of it. And I thought they did a good job. I would have done it a little different, and I think with this Fantastic Four, the biggest issue that I thought they could have done better, believe it or not, they needed maybe 10 more minutes of letting the family interact a little more. And then Galactus was very close to Galactus, but you tweak him just a little bit, make him a little less human in his motivations, and you weaken him before he's here for the exact same purpose that you're talking about, because you have to believe that you can beat him. And I just had a hard time going, man, that dude just fed off of 5 planets because they talked about it. This should be a Galactus who literally could think you out of existence. And when there's a battle going on, one thing they did really well, and then they missed on a lot of the other stuff. But there was a point when the Human Torch and the Thing used a truck full of gas to light Galactus on fire. And Galactus is on fire because all this gas and stuff. And he doesn't care. He just keeps doing whatever he's doing. It has no effect on him. That is Galactus, a guy so powerful that something that would be fatal to even superheroes, he didn't even notice. And I just think they could have weakened him before he got there, and then this movie would have had much more resonance. But instead, you use Galactus. I don't know if they'll use him again or not. But man, I would love to get in the writing room and just go, guys, you just gotta tweak it a little bit. And that's where my younger brother Jonah and I did the Omega Force comics, an independent comic back in the 90s. And that's one of the things that you could have super powerful heroes, but they had to be put in positions where they were at risk. And with Galactus, he's just so powerful, you have to power him down or it doesn't make any sense. Like Superman, the biggest thing about Superman is where he would destroy everybody, and the Sentry they've got now, Marvel, but like even Thor and Hulk, as strong as they are, Superman also has all the super speed like Flash does practically. So not only is he as strong as the Hulk or Thor, but he can move at super speed. So they would just get hit so many times they wouldn't know what happened. And Superman only uses that about once every 5 years, other than to fly fast. So anyway, but they did. I think Anton's right. They made him look weak in an attempt to get you involved in the movie. The biggest issue I had with Superman is I didn't like the cut of the costumes. And the Fantastic Four, I thought the colors were cool, but all I kept thinking was, man, that looks like a turtleneck sweatshirt. That must be hot. The whole time when they're running around, I'm like, man, wouldn't you be like sweating? And I just thought of all the sorts of the rashes and stuff you'd get from running and something like that. So obviously that part they didn't do, but I do think that I think the Fantastic Four movie is good. I don't know that it'll have the legs of Superman because Superman, and if you can humanize him, which I guess, and again, I don't ever go at the actors very much because I think Henry Cavill's a very good actor, but he just got bad script after bad script.
Yeah.
He did what he could, but
I think he was really good in that role. He looked like Superman supposed to look. He just didn't really. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Cad, you got any final parting thoughts here so we can let people go after an hour here?
Just with this one, I hope we didn't spoil it for you. Maybe people feel differently about it. I will end with just a little brief statement. You're right. Some of the stuff that you remember in comic books, and even when I watch it on some of the cartoons right now, which I'm not gonna lie, I do it. It's a lot different. It's totally different. So it will be unique. And I know they're trying to put movies out as fast as they can because Marvels and DC are competing with each other. I thought at one point in time Marvels was just heading above the shoulders of everybody else. I think DC is starting to sneak back up. But we'll see. I'm really looking forward to what else coming out. I'm not seeing Tony Stark not as Iron Man is going to be a little different for me, but it's going to be the way for everybody, not just.
Well, there is a story out there where Dr. Doom switched bodies with Tony Stark. There was a couple issues where that happened. I'm wondering if that's what they're going to do, because I think Dr. Doom is from the same world as this Fantastic Four. I'm not certain, but I think they are. There could be a little bit of the body changing, and again, if you got to go into a plot like that, at least grab it out of the comic books. But I don't know that I love Robert Downey Jr. I don't know that I would have cast him for that. And if Dr. Doom is all quippy and clever, it's going to be just horrible. But yeah, we'll have to see. Folks, next week we will be back with our look at the top 5 centers of all time. And that should be interesting to see. Will Kofi be unseated? And then where does Marcus Griffin show up in this? And then how afraid of Marcus are we that we're going to move him up because we don't want to get squished like bugs? Because, folks, Marcus is still big. And Marcus is actually in decent shape. None of us is going to outrun him.
Nope.
We can't even lip off to him.
I just do what most of our fans do. I just talk about him on social media so he can't catch us.
There we are. So, folks, until next time, go Illini.